Hi. Okay, good evening, everyone. Hello, Dr. Yip and all of the Utah lecturers.
Good evening.
Yes, okay. Okay. Okay, hello, Dr. Yip. Good evening.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. Okay, so sorry, I cannot turn on my camera since the camera in my laptop is broken. Okay, so also I see Dr. Andri Irfan, the Dean of Faculty of Civil Engineering and Planning, is already here. Hello, Pak Andri. Good evening.
Good evening, Miss Theo. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. It's already 6:30 p.m. here in Indonesia, and then I think 7:38 p.m. in Malaysia. So can we start the final presentation now? Should we start?
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay, and okay, so let us start. So good evening, everyone. The participants of the final presentation of International Civil Engineering online short course, the collaboration between UIB and UTAR. So to explain that this is the first collaboration with between the Civil Engineering Department of UIB and University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Malaysia. And there are totally 7 students participating in this online short course. There are 4 students from UTAR and there are 3 students from UIB. And this evening will be their time to present what they already learned during, I think it's already a month. They already learned with the lectures from UIB and also UTAR. So before we officially start the final presentation, I would like to welcome Dr. Yip Chun Che, the head of Civil Engineering Department from UTAR, and also Dr. Andri Irfan Rifai, the Dean of Faculty and Civil Engineering and Planning of UIB, and also Ms. Yusra Aulia Sari, the head of Civil Engineering Department of UIB. And I'm Theodosia from the International Office, and I will be the moderator for this final presentation. Okay, so I will start. So we're going to start with the opening remarks. First, we're going to listen from the opening remarks from UIB, from Dr. Andri Irfan Rifai. For Pak Andri, time is yours.
Thank you, Miss Theo. Good afternoon. Firstly, let us be grateful that God Almighty has blessed us with health and the opportunity to attend this event. I would like to welcome Dr. Yip Chun Che, Head of Civil Engineering Department, University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Malaysia. I hope you all was heard, and I hope pandemic COVID-19 pass from Malaysia. And please keep spirits and keep hearts, because we are must build some new generation to be good engineering. Also for Miss Yusra Aulia Sari, Master of Urban Planning, the Head of Civil Engineering Department, Universitas Internasional Batam. Also my colleagues from UTAR and UIB, and of participant on Universitas Internasional Batam, and also for UTAR in International Civil Engineering Online Short Course, a collaborative program between Civil Engineering Department of UIB and UTAR. And don't forget for all participants of this evening final presentation. UIB and UTAR started the collaboration in 2020. If I'm not mistaken, the first collaboration is by becoming co-host partner to conduct an international webinar, namely Conference of Management, Business Innovation, Education, and Social Science. The collaboration is now expanding to some other joint program, and I hope time by time will be developed until we have the relationship with good bonded. Yeah, I hope. Thank you, Dr. Yip Chon-chi. One of them is International Civil Engineering Online Short Course, or we can shorten is to Investor. I know that is still a small program with few students joining this program. However, I believe that this program can be a start for both of us to better this program as well as to strengthen our collaboration with other programs, such as joint research, student exchange, or faculty mobility. And I hope after pandemic can, we will try to faculty mobility. Therefore, I would like to thank the Civil Engineering Department of UTAR. Thank you for accepting our invitation to collaborate together. Thank you for your cooperation for this 2-month program. Without you and without your help, this program will not run well. Thank you so much, Dr. Yip Chon. Also, thank you my other colleagues from UIB, Ms. Yusra, Mr. Jody for the help and cooperation, and I'm waiting for other project with UTAR. I hope this program can be annual program in the future. Thank you so much and keep spirit. Good afternoon and thank you, Ms. Teo.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Andri Irfan Rifai for the opening remarks from UIB. Now we're going to listen for the opening remarks from UTAR. So to Dr. Yip, time is yours.
Okay, good evening to IR Dr. Andri, Dean of the Faculty of Civil Engineering and Planning, our Ms. Yusra, Head of Department, my dear colleagues from UTAR and Batam International University, students and ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to be the opening guest for today's event. And first of all, I wish to welcome our fellow colleagues and students. And this is a wonderful night for us, I'm sure, including me. So for our colleague, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our professors, our Dr. Kwong, Dr. Woon, Dr. Ching, Dr. I.R. Wong and I.R. Chi, and University Batam side Jody, Andres, and Ms. Yusra for conducting these short courses for 1.5 months so far for both our university students. Here, I would like to thank Ms. Theodosia as well and Dr. Li Ling especially for the kind efforts in promoting this event to our students and as well as the students from University Batam who are interested to join and learn on how to work out a good research proposal. This will certainly aid in their FYP research and help them to excel in the future. I hope this kind of the good collaborations and this kind of the good event can be organized annually so that it will be beneficial for both our university students. And not to forget our students' contributions in this event as well, because I'm certainly sure that they will having some sort of the learning experiences from different countries. especially Malaysia and Indonesia are both rich in cultural heritage. So I'm actually sure that our students are enjoying the sessions through their learning process and having fun at the same time from these events. As for the Utah management side, we actually could see the fruitful outcome, especially teaching and guiding our students through this event. And we can see that there are great improvement in terms of the students' interpersonal skills, abilities, and the leadership, and certainly will be able to contribute back to our beloved nations. Therefore, my encouragement for students is nothing is hard to begin and nothing is easy to end. And this is the process that you will go through it to be a better persons and stronger persons. I do hope that all our students will always remember, always jump out from your comfort zones. Because if you always welcome new challenges, I'm sure that at the end of the day, you will gain something unexpected and surprises eventually. Therefore, I know the time does not stop for anyone. It takes a lot of times of your busy schedules to be here tonight, and hope you all like the arrangements made for you all, and wish you all a wonderful evening and have a good time ahead. Thank you so much, and I will pass the floor back to Ms. Theodosia.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yip, for the opening remarks. Okay, so before we move to the next agenda, so I would like to invite everyone to open their camera so we can take a photo together. Okay, so please, for the all participants, please open your camera. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm still waiting for the participants to open their camera. Okay, so let us start from the first slide. Okay. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. So if you would like to turn off the camera, please. And for Dr. Yip and Dr. Andri Irfan, if you would like to still join this to watch the students' final presentation, please. But if you have any urgent things to do, so you may leave. Okay. Okay. So let us start the final presentation. So I already shared the turn for the presentation, and for the first presentation, we're going to listen to the presentation from from Chan Wei Han, from Mr. Chan Wei Han. Hello.
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, clear. Okay.
All right.
So yeah. Okay, so Mr. Chan Wei Han, if you're ready, so you may share the presentation slides and then you may start your presentation. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I was also finding where's my microphone is. So, good evening to all lecturers and all the participants of this event. I would like to present my research proposal for this investor collaborative short course. So my research title will be a comparative study on the performance of occupational noise control methods. So for an introduction, occupational noise in definition means that noise that is occurred within the workplace, such as industry, office, and factory areas. But occupational in this study will be narrow on the industry. So we talk about mining, mining fields, the factories, construction sites, and so on. So we also have noise, occupational noise pollution. And pollution, of course, will affect the human body. And the common problem would be the hearing loss. So in this case, we call it noise-induced hearing loss. It's because it is due to long-term noise exposure. So after a long-term noise exposure, you will have a hearing loss on the human body. So the symptoms of noise-induced hearing loss, in short, would be NIHL, would be growth of intolerance to loud sounds, increased complaint of tinnitus, and unable to speak properly, which hinders the oral communication. And research finds that large portion of workers suffer hearing loss or impairment due to excessive noise exposure in workplace. And in 1997, the World Health Organization recognized the issue and quote, exposure to excessive noise is the major avoidable cause of permanent hearing impairment worldwide. They predicted that the problem will become a global burden of disability as the industrialization progressed. So what are the issue with this noise problem is still going on to this day. So Noraida in the stated that Malaysian workers and occupational safety and health, which known as OSH officers, they have poor knowledge about occupational safety and health information, including noise exposure, due to lack of training and information. This is also reinforced by the fact that there's only small data about noise-induced hearing loss and prevention programs published in Malaysia. And furthermore, the data about controlling methods is not really significant in Malaysia as well. And also she said that there are over-reliance of hearing protection device, which shifted the company and workers' attention away from other preventive measures such as engineering control in reducing noise. So therefore, in this, the aim of this study is to provide a summary of all current noise control methods used from the industry and to provide the optimal and cost-effective method and material for noise exposure control. And therefore, 3 objectives are made for this study: to investigate the control methods with the concept of hierarchy of control. Next is to carry out a ShorT analysis, which is strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat on each method. And lastly, to compare between each method and find the most optimal and cost-effective control method. So the scope of this study is to investigate on past research study or guide manuals prepared by the government agency. The time constraint is set from 2010 until present year 2022 with some exception. So some guidelines may date a bit longer than 2010. So, but it is still very useful for as a reference. There will be neither measurement nor laboratory experiment will be carried out in this study. And the outcome of this study is to only provide the optimal method. However, there are no actual experiments or actual research in this recommended methods. So the significance of this study is to provide a benefit for occupational safety and health, to find the optimal and cost-effective method. So for the industry, so we can encourage the companies to try out to adapt the noise control so that the workers will be can carry out their work without suffering hearing loss. And now we'll be going for the literature review. So to give some backgrounds of this noise-induced hearing loss. So in the past, before the 20th century, this kind of noise-induced hearing loss was only limited to specific groups such as blacksmiths, millers, and stonemasons. But as the industrialization era started, the noise pollution grew rapidly due to machine process. There are more people going to factories. There are more and more machine process, and also more factories in the world. But at the same time, in the early 20th century, the scientists also able to identify the factors that affected hearing loss, such as noise frequency, intensity, and the duration of the exposure. So now we will talk, this slide will show about how the hearing loss affect the hearing mechanism. So the mechanism of hearing starts when the audio signal is carried by pinna at the outer ear section, and the ear canal will amplify and modify the sound flow to the middle ear. And next, the middle ear is an air-filled cavity, consists of 3 bones known as hammer, anvil, and stirrup. So when the bones are exposed to noise, they will initiate the vibration. This will change the sound energy to the mechanical energy. So next, the mechanical energy will transfer to cochlea, the inner side of the ear. So the cochlea, it contains fluid, and therefore the mechanical energy will transfer into hydraulic energy. The small head-like cells in the cochlea will generate electric signal from the cochlear motion and send it to the brain. So thus, the excessive noise exposure will cause the cell to be damaged, the cells in the cochlea to be damaged, and thus the human will acquire hearing loss. The hearing loss is permanent and reversible, but preventable. As long the human is exposed to high noise and excessive noise level, the problem will propagate and it will become worsen. So for the statistics, hearing loss is more severe with increasing age, and men lose hearing more than women. Some of the highest risk of hearing loss comes from industry, shipbuilding, construction, military, and farmer. In US, there are 22 million workers are exposed to high noise level jobs, and 25% of workers have a history of occupational noise exposure. In China, the average duration of exposure to harmful noise was more than 9 years. The prevalence of NIHL was 21.3%. In Malaysia, there were 2,078 cases confirmed as occupational noise-induced hearing loss, and it covers 63% of total 6,020 cases in 2017 occupational disease and poisoning investigation. A side study from construction projects conducted by NOAA showed that 33% of construction workers were exposed with noise level more than 90 dBA. Furthermore, half of the workers were dealing with heavy machinery during work hours. Another study made by Muhammad S1 in Putrajaya showed that all noise samples collected exceeded criterion level for hearing conservation program, which was 85 dBA. This shows that even in recent times, the problem of hearing loss is still present, and there is not much there's not much things done by the company management to control this noise. So it is still considered as a very common and concerning issue. However, the government has implemented regulations for Malaysia. So all the organizations in Malaysia have to follow the regulation, which are Factories and Machinery Act 1967 and the Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994. The Factory and Machinery Regulation was revoked and replaced by OSHA 2019 to provide more strict and regulation with penalty system. In this regulation, the new exposure noise is 82 dBA instead of 90 dBA. The exchange rate is set at 3 dBA instead of 5 dBA, which means that every increment of 3 dBA, the time of exposure will be reduced by an hour or 2 hours. So the noise exposure identification has been changed to annual rate instead of when only new machinery control measure or process is implemented. Employers are ought to educate their workers about noise exposure, proper usage of hearing protection device, and send them for health screening. The regulation also emphasized the hierarchy of control from engineering control to administrative control, and lastly, the personal hearing protectors. 10,000 ringgit fine or a year imprisonment will be imposed if the employer fails to do noise exposure measurement. So this is the concept of hierarchy of control according to NIOH, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health from the US. The hierarchy of control consists of 5 categories illustrated in reverse pyramid model, ranking from most effective on the top to the least effective at the bottom. And this is the diagram for the hierarchy of control. So the most effective will be eliminate the noise, and secondly will be buying quiet equipments and tools, which is as known as control by substitution. Next will be control the noise hazard, which is engineering control. And lastly, exposure time limits and PPE are categorized in administrative level. So from Malaysia view, DOSH, they have their own guideline of noise control. Their hierarchical control is described in transmission of sound, which is from the sound, then transmit to the path, and lastly to the receiver. And noise reduction as source is the most effective control is by control by substitution and engineering control, which is mentioned earlier, using quieter equipment, process and materials, and also engineering control for generated noise and radiated noise. For the transmission path, we can apply engineering control as well. There's 3 categories for transmission path, which is directly transmitted noise. When the workers is working, the machine is right in front of them. This is called directly transmitted noise. Reverberant noise, which is reflected noise. This is when the machinery sound is transmitted to the walls and the walls will reflect back to the sound. So those are reflected noise. And lastly, which will be structure-borne noise. This is travel through the air pipes or the duct. Lastly, the noise control at receiver can be made by equipping PPE and reduce the time reduce amount of time of employee is allowed to work in high noise area, which is called administrative control. However, this administrative control is considered as least effective because it requires a robust management system, and it also requires the collaboration of the workers to constantly equip their hearing protection device to prevent hearing to reduce their exposure from high noise areas. So this is the methodology of this research. Firstly, we'll be finding all the data from the internet. Mainly, we can find from Google Scholar, ScienceDirect, and also other credible journal sites. Next, we'll be doing the data process and filter. So we will check if the data is relevant to the topic. If it's not, then we're going back to the step one. If it's yes, then we going down to data grouping. So from the data grouping, we will check what kind of paper is about. Some of them could be performance study. This study is about the experiments and or measurements after applying the control methods. And also we have manual guides from the government agency to set as a reference for what are the ideal control method look like. So in this smaller subcategory will be the methods and materials, the results, and also their limitations or threat. And after we've done all the data grouping, we'll be doing the SWOT analysis, the strength, the weakness, the opportunity, and the threat. And from there, we'll be discuss which method is much more better by doing comparisons. And lastly, after all the discussion and analyzation, we'll come up a conclusion that which method is the most optimal and the most cost effective. So the outcome of this study is expected to investigate all the methods with noise reduction performance data available in the industry, and to give the most optimal control method and material. So this is from the end of my presentations.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chan Wei Han, for the great presentation. So we're going to listen to the comments from the lecturers, but at the end of the students, all students already present. But thank you very much, Mr. Chan. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Now we're going to listen to the second presentation. The second presentation will be from UIB student, from Mr. Marvin Tandedi. Hello, Mr. Marvin, are you ready?
Hello, Mr. Theodosia. I hope my voice is clear.
Yes, it's clear enough. Okay, so if you're ready, so you may start to present.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Theo, for giving me the floor to present. So good evening, dear lecturers from UIB and from UTARS. Good evening, dear participants that is joining these Zooms. And good evening to viewers from the YouTube's live. My name is Marvin, and I'm civil engineering students from Universitas Internasional Batam, and I'll be here to presenting the research proposal for these programs, namely investors. So my projects will be entitled Carbon Emission Rate of Buildings Materials from High-Rise Building Constructions. From these titles, I would like to highlight few keywords that may be interesting, which is emission rates, building materials, and high-rise buildings. So what is the connection between these three keywords? Okay, before we are going further, let me start with my research background. Why am I choosing these particular topics? We will start with this graphics, which is the world annual CO2 emissions. As we can see over here, there are a trends and increasing trends from 1950 to 2020, where the annual CO2 emissions is keep increasing, and it's rapid, if I may say. And this is the carbon dioxide or CO2 emissions from burning of fossil fuels for energy and cement productions. So as you can see over here, this graphic shows that our Earth is having an increasing CO2 emissions, which is, as we know, this can be a good things. And we will narrow down the graphics so we can see the annual CO2 emissions from fuel fossils by world regions. And I highlight some country over here. And as you can see, Asia's become one of the regions that produce lots of CO2 emissions, namely like China, India. As you can see, and if I may narrow the graphic down, we can see over here that Indonesia also produce some CO2 emissions, and it's quite high. It will be more clear when I show you the maps over here. As you can see that the graphic is showing indication of some annual CO2 emission from some country in Indonesia, in the world. And Indonesia here stands between 500 million tons to 1 billion tons of CO2 emissions per year. So we are Indonesia already in the middle stage of producing CO2, and it's moderately high. And if we narrow the graphic downs over here, so Indonesian annual carbon emissions here is quite right, and the trend is also the same. It keep increasing year after years. Okay, what will happen if this keeps continuing, or the graphic will keeps going up? What will happen? The first thing and the most biggest problems that will happen is global warming. As we all know, this is one of the problems that our world itself try to tackle, and global warming will cause collateral damage where, as you can see right now, the global temperature is keep rising, the seawater level is keeping rising, and there are a lot of problems that is caused by global warming until the World Forums is making one of the goals in Sustainable Development Goals, which is namely Goal 13, is climate actions. And one of the climate actions mission is to tackle CO2 emissions. So why am I talking about CO2 emission? What is the connection between this and our field, civil engineering? And this is related to how this carbon emission itself can increase. So carbon emissions, it can increase by significant economic developments without an efficient energy usage. And this means that our world keeps evolving, technology keeps evolving, but sadly, there are no efficient energy usage regulation. So the carbon emission is not a big problem once at one time, but now it became a high problem, which is as I stated before, and a few reasons that also becoming the things that causing that rising CO2 emission. The first is the increasing populations. As you can know, the number of people in this world itself is keep rising. Also in Indonesia, the population keeps increasing until the land usage is keep maximized. So that will become one of the reasons why carbon emission keep increasing year after year. And the increasing population also causing increasing consumptions. Consumption here is not only for maybe foods consumption, but it can go to much more vital consumption, such as gas and also cements, because we keep doing construction. So the needs of concrete and cement keep producing high. And as stated as the before graphics, cement production become one of the sectors that increase CO2 emissions. And then urbanization. This is one of the problems that maybe many countries in, especially in Asia, especially in Indonesia, facing the urbanization, where one cities will be overpopulated and the other city will be not. And the result is the consumption become higher because some cities will have an overpopulation. Also, in Indonesia itself, one of the reasons why this carbon CO2 emission is keep rising is the continuous development and construction. Why? Because as we see in 2020 gross domestic products, 10 construction sectors fill until 10.56% of Indonesia gross domestic product by 2020. So this shows that Indonesia keep doing constructions, and as we know before, construction. Sadly, even though the construction activity that happen in Indonesia is high, there are no information or impact information about how these construction sectors can affect CO2 productions. and maybe there, but other countries shows how these construction sectors keep making and CO2 emissions keep increasing. As you can see over here, in China, so, construction sectors place 34.31% of total CO2 emissions from construction sectors only. So almost 1/3 of China's carbon emission is caused by construction sectors. Also, same in the USA, which reaching 20%, and the in Japan itself, each construction sectors produce 750 until 1,140 kilogram of CO2 per meter square. So it's a quite high emission rates in other country, but sadly in Indonesia there are no overview or the impacts of the construction sector itself. So this is our target. We need to decrease the emission of CO2, and by doing this, we have to reviewing a lot of things. So how can we make it happen? How can we make the CO2 emissions rates decreasing instead of increasing? So there are a few things that can be do, which is the first one is that we have to develop strategies and steps to reduce the increase in carbon emissions. And the first thing first that we have to do is one of the things that we can do is to making an quantitative estimation of greenhouse gas emission from the construction sectors because we are in the construction fields. So one of the things that we can do is making an estimation of greenhouse gases emissions. And that's why I'm choosing these studies where I can, where these studies will be focusing on the construction process of high-rise buildings in my campus itself. The problem statement here is how do construction activities have an impact on increasing carbon emissions, and what is an effective method for calculating carbon emissions in construction activities, and are there opportunities to reduce carbon emissions generated by construction activities. The research benefits, hopefully this research can provide knowledge about method of calculating carbon emissions in the use of construction materials, and then providing references for related countries in achieving environmentally friendly construction activities, and to apply the method of calculating carbon emission on the use of construction materials who determines the impact of construction on the environment. The scope of this research will be the construction activities that is the object of the construction activities that will become the object of this research is the construction of high-rise building in UID. And discussion we'll discuss in this carbon is limited to carbon emission produced by construction materials. And the case study was conducted using a life cycle assessment method and was only limited to building construction phase. So the literature reviews for these studies that have been done, the previous studies that is done to related to these topics is the first one where I found their operation and maintenance phase produce a total of 78% from the greenhouse gases. This is based on research conducted by Xiaolin Chang et al. On 2013. And the second theories that I found, the second finding that I found from previous studies is the life cycle of greenhouse gases emission in a university building in Australia reaches 14,259 tons of CO2. And then of the 48 buildings typologies analyzed, the materials that produce the most emissions are iron or alloys, concrete or cements, and ceramic or bricks. So this is the research that has been done by Gonzalez Parejo et al. On 2020. And then Xiamen cities, China, experienced an increase of carbon emission by an average of 12.87% from 2005 to 2009, with 45% coming from the production of construction materials. And then building with architectural structures of concrete and stone produce more CO2 emission than building with steel structures with concrete in the same area. And the last findings that I found is the steel and concrete production stage is the largest carbon emitter, with emission accounting for 83% of the entire construction process. So the next one is the carbon footprints. So doing these studies, we have to understand about carbon footprints. So carbon footprint is a measurement of the total carbon dioxide emission exclusively resulting from activities that accumulate over the life cycle of any products. So the whole process of the products in these studies, which is construction, will be measured and will be analyzed to find which factors or which items that produce more carbon dioxide. From there, the hope is we can find a new solution or maybe a substitution of the items. So the total of carbon dioxide emission from one activities can be reduced. And there is maybe the definition of carbon footprints, and carbon footprint itself becoming one of the most important things in calculating, tracking, and identifying all the things that can cause an increase in greenhouse gases. So both of this statement, it comes from Whitman and Minks 2007. Carbon emission calculation methods can be defined by the objects, the scales, and the methods. So the larger for large scales activities, usually we are using IOA methods, and for the smaller scale, we are using LCA methods, which is life cycles analysis method. So for construction, which is for the studies, because I'm analyzing one construction process, we'll be using I will be trying to using LCA methods. So the LCA method itself is one of the methods that is used for tracking carbon footprints by organizing the items and counting the items that is used in one activities, and by setting the boundaries, the item will be analyzed and to see the product of the carbon footprints. So the whole graphics can be solved in the pictures. And then the simple basic concepts of the LCA method in the building process sectors can be seen before, where we will be inputting the resources such as energy, water, and materials, and we are accounting the resources based on its life cycle stages of construction, and we will get the outputs where will be one of the outputs that will be highlighted here is the CO2 emissions. The construction life cycle itself consists of preparation of construction materials, where over here we will be talking about the manufacturing of the construction material itself, and then the building constructions will be where it is one of the process where the building itself is erected and is being constructed. And then the building operations and maintenance, where the building that is already done constructs will be used and be watched over through maintenance. And then when the building reach its life age, it will be demolished because it can be used again. And construction study of itself is all materials that are used in construction life cycles. Also, each construction materials has its own CO2 equivalent emission value, or the emission factors. We can receive this from the studies from from other studies that is on Google Scholars, where each materials has its own CO2 equivalent emission value, where it's somehow it's kind of a variable or for this each material types. So we can see how many CO2 emission that is produced from each materials. So for the research methodology, the research location will be located in UIB itself, where there is a new building constructions that will be conducted. The research data over here, the primary data that will be used is the bill of quantity of the constructions and the materials that are used in the construction itself. And the secondary data will be the carbon emission factors that I mentioned before, So by processing both of this data, we can, and by using the methodology that I already mentioned, we can earn the carbon emission data. The data collection method will include survey, interview, and literature studies. And the processing method will involving these equations, which is used in some models of previous studies of the same, almost the similar studies. And the flowchart of this research will be stated at the picture, where we're conducting research study and field study to identify the problem, and then the identified problem will be tried to be solved by collecting some data, which is consists of primary data and secondary data, and then those data will be identified by inventory components using the LCA methods before, and then it will be processed to produce the carbon emission pledge, and will be discussed later and analyzed further to gain the constructions and the conclusions and the suggestions, and then the research will be finished. I think this is the bibliography that I use for making these proposals, and maybe that's all from me. Thank you for listening. Good evening.
Okay, thank you, Marvin, for the presentation. Thank you very much. So we're going to move to the third presenters. Is Ang Kai-wen from Utah here? Hello, is Ang Kai-wen is here? Okay, so I think we can move to the next presenter first. Let's listen to the presentation from UIB student, Willie Anthony. Is Willie here? Hello, Willie. Hello, is Willie here? Okay, if not, can we move to Derwin from UIB? Hello, Derwin. Hello, is Derwin here?
Oh, hello. This is not combined. I'm sorry. I think the voice come from combined because I just have finished my combined presentation.
Sorry. Oh, okay. I see. So Derwin, are you ready with the presentation now?
I think I'm ready.
Okay. Okay, so please, Derwin.
Yes. Okay, I will share my screen. Okay, so this is how can I display my face in this Zoom? I don't know how. Oh, I know. What should I do? It's just this screen. I cannot display my my screen. Hello.
Hello. So you already shared your screen?
Yeah, but I also, you said that I also have to display my face like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
is this right? Okay, can I start my presentation now?
Yes, sure. Please, Darwin.
Okay. So let's begin with the first chapter. In this passage, there are three chapters that I want to introduce. The first chapter consists of four main parts. The research background, formulation of problem, research purpose, and scope of problem. This is a research background. Research background means this will give a brief and clear reason why I want to do this 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 research, and what is the major cause for me to start the research in order to overcome that problem. And also there are a simple brief explanation on the second paragraph that tell people how much percent, the indicator of how much percentage of material waste is considered normal. And this is the formulation of problem. In the first one, we can see that there are three main methods that I will use. BBS. This is not SBI. This is SNE. This is Indonesian method, and the second is BS British method, and linear programming method. Both of them are calculated using Microsoft Excel program. And the at the end, at the fifth chapter later in my research, I will display what is the most effective one. What is the most effective method in dwindling or reducing the number of waste material. This is research purpose and benefit. First one is the summarize the calculation result. The calculation result means it can be divided by each type of reinforced concrete steel structure and by the diameter or by the area. The benefit is to as a material for student or actor who want to gain knowledge or understanding in this material, and for researcher who want to make research for the same topic. This is scope of problem. Scope of problem. First one is the research objective is located in Panbil One, which has been built since 2003. The second is the method I use, and the third is don't include budget because I didn't get the data from the former PM of the project regarding the budget. Chapter 2 is theoretical basis. Okay, the first one is primarily research. In this one, I will explain something. There are actually 10, but I will only explain 2. This one I only explain the name of researcher, the institution, the title, research object, and the result of the object. Like this is consists of all result that summarize, like the result of one process and the one project and the result of the other project using the different method like that. Type of consistent material according to Pavilion can be classified into 2, which is consumable and non-consumable. Consumable is the outer part of the PC or the physical part. Non-consumable is the supporting that was used during construction, like scaffolding, pembot, and something like that. And this is the reinforcing iron. The reinforcing iron is the iron that is insert or placed inside the steel concrete structure before it will be hardening by the cement like that. And condition of reinforced iron is mean the condition that we need, that it requires so that the iron will not have corrosion or will not reduce its force to endure forces from other area like that. Type of steel. This is based on its location. For example, in the beam there are support or pillar steel and field steel. support or pillar based on its length. This is main rebar. So support pillar and field steel and also have in flat floor like that, but the condition is different. The beam is consists of more steel like that. The rebar, this is based on the this is give a simple rule about like for example, if the position between two steel is determined by what, and also the concrete cover is determined by what. Like for example, some of the factor that contribute is the steel diameter. This is BBS. This is explain the data need to calculate data using BBS and its definition. This is the definition, the common characteristic, and the type of function. Usually, for the function, we need like we need to group some steel into some group with the length of not longer than 12 meters. That will be explained in the next section. This is chapter 3. This is the research question. This is the type of data, which is consists of primary data, and this is not atmospheric. This is secondary data. Secondary data. Primary data, which is data obtained from interview forces from former PM, which is now became UIB lecture. This is the data. This is interference process. The interference process is needed because the researchers are not able to understand 100% or all the data given using AutoCAD, and so we need to know how the steel is inserted inside every type of reinforced concrete structure before we can calculate it. This is the baseline or the outer line of each of the three methods that I will use. This is the research step. The research step is like, first is identify a problem to find title, doing literature to know how to calculate data and find the other supporting theory, and second, collecting data, or doing data computing, and finally compute the result. The result means that the result of being computed will be compared in an Excel to know to compare its data, which is the most effective using two parameters: the number of steel watts and the steel that we can use, the amount of steel that we can use in an amount of kilograms or length. This is the fourth step. This is the 5 step that explain how my research has been done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Derwin, for the presentation. So I would like to check whether Ju Wing Wai is already here. Ju Wing Wai. And how about Ting Ki Woon? Are you here, Ting Ki Woon? Okay, so if they are not here, okay, so for the lectures from UIB and also from UTAR, so do you have any comments for the three presentations for the Mr. Chan Wei Han presentation, Mr. Marvin, and also Mr. Derwin. So do you have any comments from the, maybe from the UTAR lectures first? Okay, so Mr. Thomas here would like to say something.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening to all of you.
Yes, good
I will
evening.
thought that, yeah, some topics quite interesting, but it seems like for the presentation slide, some students presented their idea in a very long wordings. It would be good that students able to present the idea in a concise way, simplify their presentation slide, not full of wordings and easy to read, because I've also found very difficult to follow what the student trying to present and listens what they are trying to say. Yeah, this is one of the important points from me. And then the fonts that I saw that from Mr. Derwin, the presentations font is quite, some of the sentence is quite same with the background color. So when I try to read it out, when he trying to present it out, I will lost focus already. Yes, this is a minor presentation skill that can be improved. Other than that, for the research part of doing literature review, because I'm covering literature review, but it really needs time for the students to practice and get the supervision from their respective lecturers from the both university. You just done within a few weeks only, so I think it's a great job already, at least. But it will take longer time, few months, so that students can further up and polish it up. Yeah, this is my comment from all for both sides here. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas, for the comments. For other UTA lecturers, do you have any comments for the students' presentation? Maybe from Dr. Chen Renjie or Dr. Chin. Or Dr. Lee? No? Okay. So maybe from UIB lectures, do you have any comments to the students' presentation, please, if you have any comments?
Okay, Ms. Theo, I think.
Oh yeah, please, Ms. Yusra.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the presentation. Chai Wen Han told about comparative study on the performance of occupational noise control method. I think this is an exciting topic because it discusses social science, which is still little discussed at UIB Civil Engineering. And most student research is more technical and scientific. So it would be better to discuss social topics and connect with our expert as an engineer. But for method, there may be other method that can be used in this study because the SWOT analysis method validation is not very strong, but for the short course program, I think it's okay. And for Marvin Tandedi, he talked about carbon emission rate of building materials from high-rise building construction. So we have long realized that the construction sector contributes to global warming. So I'm happy if there are students who take part in this issue as an engineer's expert. But however, maybe students will experience data problems because not many construction companies are open about this. And for Darwin presentation, I'm sorry I missed another because due to taking care of something else, Ms. Theo. I think that's all from me.
Okay, thank you, Miss Yusra, for the comments. Maybe from other UIB lecturers, do you have any additional comments for the students? Okay, Mr. Jody, please.
Okay, Miss, thank you for the session for me, and good evening for everybody. And maybe I would like to add some insight from me, and I'm agree with the other lecturer like Sir Thomas and Ma'am Yusra about the insight for you, and I'm agree about the you have to specify your theme or topic because of your topic is still generalized, and I think it's okay because of this only 1 month we get the course, but maybe uh, in the other uh, in the other chance or in the other time you would have to specify your topics and you have to find your originally. And for the others and for the other student, maybe you could or for I would like to generalize all the insight from me, and I would like to say that maybe from the structure for your proposal is good enough, and I would like to appreciate it, and all of the concept about your research is it's good enough for me, and maybe some notes that you have to write it down about you have to equalize the all of the parameters of your research, such as the variable and the unit of your parameter, because it will be the some point that you have to make it equals like that. And then the second point I want to say about the uh, maybe the point of view. I have said from the educative, maybe descriptive, and maybe I have said in my class about the what is the point of your point of view. Your point of view you have to present us about your point of view. So don't just like you get the other topics and you match that to your research, but you have to find the differences from your research to the other research or the previous studies. So you have to make an originality about your research, and you have to present it in your proposal or in your thesis report like that. So maybe it's all from me. Thank you for the okay. I think it's enough. Thank you, Ms. Theodosia. Good evening, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jody, for the comments for the students. Okay, so actually there are other students who will present, but they just told me that they can't join because of several reasons, like apparently one of the students is infected by COVID-19. So he cannot join, and also some other students have problem with the internet connection. Okay, I see. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for Dr. Yip as well, if you are still here. Hello, Dr. Yip.
Yes, thank you so much for everyone for the presentations and the comments, and thank you so much for Theodosia for chairing these sessions.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Yip. Okay. Okay. So everyone, I'm really sorry that there are only 3 students presenting today because of some problems that are faced by the students. Okay, but I hope that this kind of collaboration can be conducted annually, Dr. Yip, this online short course, so we can conduct it better next year, so we can evaluate together, and then we can what is it help the same online short course again next year. So looking forward for that, Dr. Yip.
All right, thank you so much for everyone's your kind effort in joining this
Yes.
evening sessions.
Yes, also, and I would like to thank also other colleges from Utah, Dr. Chin, Dr. Lee, who always assisted me during the sessions, and also to other UIB colleges, Miss Yusra and also Mr. Jody. Okay, so for the participants, I already shared the attendance list in the chat box, so please kindly fill in the attendance list if you would like to get the e-certificate for joining this final presentation. And after that, we're going to send the e-certificate to you by email. Okay. Okay, so everyone, thank you very much for today. See you and stay safe and stay healthy, everyone.
All right, see you all. Bye.
See you.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.